Cardinals Rewind. Of course, a main event podcast, special podcast, coming at you as the Cardinals victory against the New York Jets last week. 30-10 to go 3-2 on the year. Of course, it's the lonely New York Jets, right? They are a dumpster fire. They are a mess. Their quote-unquote offensive genius head coach, Adam Gase, that's what the owner calls him, put in a tight end on 4th down and 1. They had 2 4th and 1s, by the way, to start the game off. And instead of giving the ball to Le'Veon Bell or Frank Gore, the actual running backs on the team, to pick up the first down, they didn't pick it up. And Cardinals defense stifled them, which was great to see. But it's the Jets. 30-10, but the Cardinals went and did not only what they needed to do, but what they should have done, what was expected of them to get that 30-10 victory last weekend. Of course, the Cardinals go to 3-2 on the year. Jets go to 0-5. So, judging by the Twitter reaction and other things that I saw, of course, it was the Jets. A lot of negativity on this Cardinals performance because it was only the Jets. Look, Jets are still an NFL football team, although I'm on the side of they need to be folded at this point. They're just a mess. Of course, after the game, they cut Le'Veon Bell. Whatever. It's New York's problem, not ours. And a lot of people just saying, well, it's the Jets. Cardinals should have won that. And that negativity cracks me up because the Cardinals did what you wanted them to do. They went out there. Lots of positives on this day. A lot of my game notes were on the positives. Couple negatives that there's really nothing you could do about on one of them. But, of course, this one I'm not putting as a positive or a negative. Generally, you would put an interception that Kyler Murray had as a negative. It was a batted ball by a defensive lineman by the Jets. That was like 4 yards the opposite way down the field. He was being blocked very successfully by the Cardinals offensive lineman. The ball went directly to a Jets player. Those things happen. And it didn't affect the game either way. You don't want to see it by any stretch, but I'm also not going to be too hard on the interception with the way that it happened and the way that it occurred and all that good stuff, So, positives that I wrote down for the week, the defense stepped up nicely, including the special team players who learned that they would be playing defense pretty much as the game started. Of course, we're talking about Dennis Gardeck. Chandler Jones in warm-ups went down. Bicep injury, wasn't able to continue the warm-up there. Sat down. They realized it was a bicep injury. Sounds horrible. Of course, after the game, as we jump ahead, it turns out that he's out for the season now. He's on IR, surgery to repair that bicep. It's going to be a big negative for this defense moving forward. But it was good to see Dennis Gardeck, special teams player, undrafted free agent for the Cardinals, stepping up. 2 sacks in this game. 1 questionable sack dance and 1 pretty good sack dance, I thought. Of course, Patrick Peterson, who grades the sack dances, said the first one was a 3 and the second sack dance was a 7. But this is what's so great about this kid, right? Is he said, well, great, I got a 10 out of 2 sacks. So he said, quote, I feel 10 out of 10. I did my job, unquote. So that's hilarious. It's just a fun player. These are the guys you root for when these things happen to them. I've said it a few times this year. And it's just exciting when an undrafted free agent from the University of Sioux Falls, special teams player, is a valued special teams player. These were his first non-special team snaps of his career for the Cardinals, for any team, for the Cardinals. That's the team he's on. He said he was nervous, and he was able to get to Joe Flacco not once but twice. One thing I did say going into this game was I'm a little weary of Joe Flacco. I didn't think the Jets would be able to win this game with him, but I did say he's going to command that offense a little better than Sam Darnold did. I'm a little weary about it. It's going to be a closer game than you thought. Forget about the closer thing, Dale. The Jets offense did run a little bit more. Seemed like they knew what they were doing a little bit more. But I also didn't factor in the fact that Adam Gase is no offensive genius, regardless of what his owner says about him. And they just had some horrible play calling, a couple of 4th and 1s that were just god awful for them that they could have converted. And the Cardinals did what they needed to do against Joe Flacco, who hasn't played in a year and a half or so. He makes some nice throws. He was able to not get any huge hits against him. He was able to move the ball a little bit, and we'll get into that here a little bit as we move on to this podcast here. So I just enjoy rooting for guys like Dennis Gardeck, not just guys that are just in the league fighting every day to be in this league. They come from small schools. They don't have the talent of a Chandler Jones, obviously. Most people don't. And they get an opportunity and they step up and they, perform and get a good day. So, he even says, quote, "The goal was to never play professionally. It was to pay for school." And then he said, unquote, "I wanted to see how far we can take this." So, kid's living his dream right now. Good for him. He's had a 2-year NFL career now with a couple sacks on his record, not just special teams deals. So he understands his role on the team. He knows he's not going to be, quote unquote, step in for Chandler Jones and dominate like he does on that defensive line. But he was great at picking up those sacks. Just an all-around good story, as I keep saying. I'm going to stop harping on it. I just love stories like this in the NFL, because a lot of times you just hear about, the guys that you expect to know, the name guys, things like that. And these guys, when they get their opportunities and make it work, I just love it. Just love it. Can't get enough of it. Absolutely. Another positive, of course, we talked about Dennis Gardeck's 2 sacks. The passes were spread around a little bit more for the Cardinals this game. So it wasn't just DeAndre Hopkins as the main part as the receiver. Now, he had 131 yards on the day and a touchdown, DeAndre Hopkins did, but he only had 6 receptions. So here's the receptions. I'm not going to go through all the players, but I'm going to read them down by 6, 5, 5, 2, 4, 2. Right? Ball was spread around this time. It wasn't just D-Hop only. So basically, it's DeAndre Hopkins had 6 for 131, 1 touchdown, 7 targets. Christian Kirk had 5 catches, 78 yards. No touchdowns, but 7 targets. Chase Edmonds caught some balls, 5 for 56 yards with 6 targets. Darrell Daniels, the tight end, is 2 for 37 with 2 targets. Larry Fitz, finally, 4 catches, 35 yards, 7 targets. But they look like they're getting a little bit more involved in that offense, which is what we all wanted to see going into this game after some non-targets in the last few games for Larry. Andy Isabella, 2 catches, 30 yards. Three targets. Doesn't sound like a lot. It's a typical Andy Isabella, but he's able to stretch the field. One of those was a long catch across the middle to keep the chains moving for the Cardinals. And if you only have 2 catches in a game for 30 yards, Andy Isabella, make him count like you did in this game. So it was a positive. I was writing down throughout the game how they were spreading the ball around on offense on the receiving side. We're going to have a negative on the Cardinals offense coming up here, but Cardinals threw the ball downfield. Last couple of days, a lot of pressure on the Cardinals, especially in the 2 losses, one to the Lions and then once to the Panthers. Was the word coming out from everybody, of course, on the radio and fans, was dink and dunk offense. Dink and dunk offense. Cardinals actually threw the ball down the field in this game. Kyler Murray had a career high 380 yards on this game, and they threw the ball 15 yards on the field, 20 yards. I read that stat before that we didn't know before, where Kyler Murray was not very accurate in that 10 to 15 yard range. He was definitely accurate in this game. He definitely hit guys in that range and going down the field. Not just D-Hop, but also, like I said, Andy Isabella going across the middle on a couple plays. Larry going there. Christian Kirk down the sideline on a play. D-Hop on the sideline where he dragged his feet to get the catch and then get the first down. Great to see. That's what we want to see from this Cardinals offense. And then also, when nothing was open downfield, they even had a couple quarterback draws drawn up for Kyler Murray, and he capitalized on them. But when they didn't have it and nothing was open down the field and the Jets gave him a lane, Kyler Murray took it. Now, it doesn't show up hugely on the stat line by any stretch because it wasn't a large amount of rushes. So Kyler Murray had 9 carries, but it was only 31 yards. Of course, one of them was a longer run there, and the other one's a little bit shorter. But he did get 1 touchdown rushing. The other positive I got out of this, and one of the negatives is the run game. We're gonna get to that. Was that 1 touchdown Kyler Murray did throw to a tight end? I believe that was Daniels, if I remember correctly. Let me look that up here real quick. I could be wrong. But then also 3 rushing touchdowns for the Cardinals in this game. So Kenyon Drake had 1. Chase Edmonds had a really nice run to get a touchdown. And then, of course, Kyler Murray ran for 1 as well. So now those are just some positives. But the other one, and we're going to get into this, not in depth, but I'm going to show you some videos and whatnot here. But DeAndre Hopkins' hands are just amazing on there. So he had 1 on the sideline where he caught it basically one-handed. He had 1 catch where it was just a standard catch, but he had to drag his feet to get the first down along the sideline, and he did it beautifully. And then the touchdown catch by DeAndre Hopkins. Let's go ahead and take a look at this here. So beautiful throw by Kyler Murray. Puts it right in the breadbasket, as they like to say. Whoever likes to say it, people do. Beautiful catch and throw. Comes down with it with the one hand. The other hand's kind of obstructed. He's got the defender draped all over him. Fantastic catch. And my favorite there is greatness recognizes greatness. Runs over and congratulates him for the one-handed catch in the end zone there. So fantastic catch. The other thing I like about it is DeAndre Hopkins has had some spectacular catches, right? So after the game, I believe this was in his press conference. I could be wrong. It was either Monday or Tuesday. But he had some comments about, of course, his spectacular catches that he's had this year, and specifically in the Jets game.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, I want to keep doing it so I can keep looking at my own catches and not somebody else's. But sometimes I look at it and like, darn, that was me who just did that. But I know my preparation and how I prepare. Little things I do, to make catches like that. But yeah, sometimes I all myself. I'm not gonna lie.
So first of all, I love the honesty, right? But most receivers will always say, oh, I know I can do that. I practice hard, which he says on there. But it's just great to hear a receiver say, I expect myself to do that. It's great to do it. I love watching myself do it. I love anybody catching those, but it's even better to see me do it. And even Larry came out and said it's just instinctual to make those catches. So it's just great. I just love that all the way around by any stretch on what's happening with DeAndre Hopkins. And hopefully he can continue it. There's no reason for him not to continue it. As I said, only quote unquote only 6 catches last weekend against the Jets, but the 131 yards. And they moved the ball around, which is the most exciting part, as I said. Now the negative, as we talked about, the running game for the Cardinals. Everybody's talking about it. It's been an issue. Kenyon Drake has never been a run downhill kind of runner. They knew that in Miami. Last week when the Cardinals got him, you start to see that from him. But he's kind of gone back in the last couple of games where he kind of dances around in the backfield. He tries to stretch it outside when there's nothing outside or they're going to run him down. I'd like to see him run up the middle, of course, a little bit more than he was doing. It wasn't a bad day, in my mind, for Kenyon Drake at all. 18 carries, 60 yards with the 1 touchdown. He averaged 3.3. And I see a lot of people, especially on Twitter, and also I've heard on the radio this week, that they want to see more Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds is a great change of pace back. He had 3 carries for 36 yards and 1 touchdown, and his touchdown run was great. It was a spectacular run. It gives you that difference. I think they're a great 1-2 tandem. It's just Kenyon Drake, I think, needs to be the guy that pounds the ball at the middle, gets those tougher yards per se, and doesn't try to be cute with the ball. That'll just open up this running game a little bit more. But it was certainly, I got a text in the game saying Kenyon Drake is trash, which is a little harsh. He is far from trash. He is a very good, better than average running back in this league. It's just He falls into these dance around, try to get a little too much out of it when nothing's there. Just pound the ball. Just go for it and pound it. Now, Kyler Murray was 27 for 37, 27 completions, 37 attempts, 18 rushes for Kenyon Drake, and 3 for Chase Edmonds. So that's 21 there. Pretty balanced on the offensive side, right? Of course, Kyler Murray had 9 runs as well. I don't count the quarterback runs because some of those are designed. A couple of those were designs, and so I don't necessarily count those. But they kind of rounded out the deal, which is what I talked about last week, is I want to see more running. This was the game to get the running game going. They did for a little bit, but they also threw the ball around, and you can't blame them. If the Jets defense is going to give them the sidelines, DeAndre Hopkins is going to make those catches. Christian Kirk's going to make those catches. Throw it as well, right? And the Cardinals had the ball for a long time during this game. And we'll get into, of course, time of possession like we do here in just a few minutes. So, of course, the big negative on this game was Cardinals lost Chandler Jones for the year with a bicep injury. No matter what you think of Chandler Jones' year this year, I've heard guys say that he's been disappointing. I've heard guys say that they wanted more from him. And I've also seen a bunch of guys say he's being double-teamed. He's putting pressure on the defense, allowing the other guys to get some sacks and some pressures. I fall on that side of the defensive side where Chandler Jones isn't always going to get a sack, but he's going to get the pressures. He's going to free up another guy as they kind of double-team him on that side. But he's out for the year with a bicep injury. Kennard, of course, has been out. So he's supposed to play this weekend against the Cowboys. Now it's even more important that Kennard comes back, because I thought, especially in that Panthers game, they missed Kennard more than anybody really talked about. And it was pretty obvious in that game. So with him coming back, that's going to help out. And, of course, you need these guys like Gardock to step up. These guys that don't play in these spots very often, they need to step up, get pressures, get sacks against the quarterback, especially this weekend with Andy Dalton starting instead of Dak, as we'll talk about when we get into the Cardinals game this Monday night. One thing we always look at on this podcast, of course, is penalties. Cardinals revolted back again. They just can't help themselves. Number of penalties was sky high again. Yards wasn't as bad as it can be. I mean, they've had they had 11 penalties, and I think that was the Panthers game. They had 11 penalties and 100 and something yards, something ridiculous like that. So it's only 10 penalties. I mean, it's 10 penalties is a lot for them, but it's only 59 yards. Improvement on the yardage side, not an improvement on the number of penalties side. Even last week, it was a talking point as how there is a stat out there, and I didn't look it up because everybody else was using it, but there's a stat out there where the penalties kill drives and how it hurts you, things like that. And the Cardinals are worse than the league on that stat. They have the most penalties that hurt their drives when they're moving or helps the offense on the other team when they're on defense. Need to dial that in a little bit to go. I don't remember off the top of my head. I didn't write any down, at least, were there any huge penalties that just were ridiculous, caused serious issues out there. I'm sure there might have been one or two that killed the drive at some point, but nothing major like I had early on in the season. So I'm getting soft listening to the penalties and following up on them, or the penalties aren't in those egregious situations that drive me batty. Probably the second one more than the first one, because penalties drive me batty when I'm either in the stands or like now watching it on my couch. So another thing we obviously always look at here is my concern for the Cardinals, either getting the ball deep into the zone and scoring touchdowns, or the drive stalling and having to kick, 47, 50, 55-yard field goals, which he can do, which Zane Gonzalez can do. So I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. We just want to see the ball. So in this game, the Cardinals got deep into the Jets area zone, and they were able to score touchdowns. They had one field goal attempt. It was a 47-yard field goal attempt, so another long one. So it's nice to have that he can make those. Just would like to get these drives in there. So the Cardinals, of course, last week? They didn't attempt any field goals against the Panthers, and now they had one field goal. So their field goal chances are getting less. In this game, it was because they were scoring touchdowns. So that's the positive. if they were driving the ball at all, they were getting touchdowns, and you can't knock them for that. You're not going to knock them. I'm not going to knock them for that. You can knock them if you want, but you'll just sound silly. Don't sound silly out there, everybody. So the next item we always talk about on here is time of possession. Totally happy with this one. 100% happy with this one. And there's an interesting dynamic here that I've kind of left off one of my negatives for the Cardinals, and we're going to talk about this as third quarter. So 32 minutes and 15 seconds for the Cardinals, 27 minutes, 45 seconds for the New York Jets for this game. Cardinals dominated this game. Jets drives were fairly short. We'll get into that in just a minute. But one of the comments I wrote down in my notes in the third quarter was Cardinals are letting the Jets stick around and come back. And this was when the Jets went down and scored their touchdown in the third quarter to make it, I believe it was 17-10 at that point. And I wrote down, Cards are leaving the Jets into this. They're having a bad third quarter. Not a lot of, I said they're not possessing the ball. They're not scoring, et cetera, et cetera. The interesting thing about that is when I go back and look at numbers, I don't know if the stats are just this way. In the third quarter, so they had the ball the same amount of time in the first quarter, 7 minutes and 30 seconds, identical for both teams. The second quarter, Jets had it for 8 minutes, 40 seconds, Cardinals for 6 minutes, 20 seconds. Not what you want to see, of course. But then in the third quarter, I wrote down, Cardinals are letting the Jets be in this game. The Jets are coming back in this game. It's 17-10 all of a sudden. Cardinals need to wake up. I even said that sitting on my couch. I said, Cardinals need to wake up. I remember saying that out loud. But then you look at time of possession per quarter. Cardinals had the ball for 10 minutes, 58 seconds. The Jets had it for 4 minutes and 2 seconds. That anomaly, I was shocked to see that with my notes, my recollection of the game, and that it was 17-10, and the Jets drove down the ball and scored a touchdown. Just fascinating. Then in the fourth quarter, real quick, 7 minutes, 27 seconds for the Cardinals, 7:33 for the Jets. But that third quarter is such an interesting dynamic because if you remember the third quarter, Cardinals got the ball to begin the quarter, punt. Then they gave the ball to the Jets. Jets punted. Cardinals punted. Jets went down and scored that touchdown to make it 17-10. Cardinals went down, then got the ball back and was like, we better start playing. Went down the field, scored a touchdown to make it 24-10. Jets then punted in the third quarter. So to begin that quarter, Cardinals went 6 plays, 20 yards, 3 minutes off the time, 3 and some change. So they punted the ball. So they had the ball for a while, 20-yard pickup on 6 plays. Then the Jets got the ball back, 3 plays, 9 yards, quick 3 and out, minute 35. Cardinals got the ball back, 3 plays, 19 yards, 2 minutes, 19 seconds. And then the Jets went down 6 plays, 74 yards for 2 minutes and 12 seconds. This was the drive where they had the 52-yard pass where Joe Flacco passed it to Crowder for the 52-yard pass completion. There. So big, quick, huge play for the Jets to go down and score on this to make it 17-10. Like I said, this is where I wrote down Cardinals will leave them in the game for the time of possession. The nice thing was, and where the time of possession gets out of whack, was so my notes were correct in terms of the Cardinals leaving them in the game. Jets are hanging around when they scored that touchdown. But then the nice thing that you saw was the Cardinals got the ball back. Right after that Jets touchdown to make it 17-10. Then they go down. Cardinals go 10 plays, 70 yards, 5 minutes, 36 seconds off the clock. Score the touchdown, makes it 24-10. It's like the Cardinals woke up, just like I said sitting on my couch. I said, Cardinals need to wake up. They did. You're welcome, Cardinals world. I got it done for you by saying that on my couch. This, of course, was the drive where they had the 31-yard pass where Murray hit Daniels, the tight end, for 31 yards across the middle, going down. And this is the one where Kenyon Drake ran it 1 yard up the middle, I believe, off the left guard, if I remember correctly. I could be a little off on that where he ran it, but he did score a touchdown on that one. So that's where the time of possession gets out of whack. Jets did get the ball back after that. Ran 9 plays for only 11 yards and took basically 4 minutes off the clock. So it could have been even more skewed if the Cardinals would have gotten them off the third. So it's just funny how when you have notes, and then I was looking at the stats and was like, were my notes wrong, or the stats just out of whack? And it's one of those situations where the notes are right, my inclination was right up until that Jets touchdown, and then the Cardinals kind of woke up and then dominated the game after that. So one thing also we talked about was the Jets' drives were short for the most part, which was good for the defense. Got them a lot of rest. They didn't get tired in this game. And then the Cardinals' offense, even when they were punting the ball, still had the ball for 2 minutes plus for the most part. Jets in the first quarter, 3 plays, 9 yards, punt. Their next possession, 3 plays, 8 yards, punt. Next possession, 5 plays, 15 yards, punt. This one hurts for the Jets. In the first quarter, 14 plays, 69 yards. Fourth and one. This is one of those 4th and 1s. 7 minutes, 57 seconds off the clock. Turn it over on downs because the Cardinals stopped them for no gain. Le'Veon Bell up the middle for no gain on 4th and 1 at the Arizona 13. This was after, by the way, a run for no gain on 3rd down, where Wesco, which I believe is the tight end that I was talking about, ran it up the middle for no gain on that. So they had 2 chances to pick up 1 yard, and the Jets couldn't do it there on a long 14-play, 69-yard possession, 8 minutes off the clock there. So continuing on, even after the interception of Kyler Murray that we talked about, Jets went 4 plays, 7 yards, kicked the field goal. So another short drive on their Jets' next possession on a punt, 6 plays, 43 yards, end of the half at that point. Third quarter, 3 plays, 9 yards, punt, 6 plays, 74 yards, touchdown. Now that wasn't a lot of plays, a lot of yardage, but not a lot of plays. Of course, we already talked about the long 52-yard pass to Crowder we talked about, but it was a short amount of plays. Then at the end of the third, they had 9 plays, 11 yards, a punt there. And then in the fourth quarter, they had 12 plays, 40 yards, turnover on downs. The Cardinals just didn't allow the Jets to do anything there in the fourth quarter. And for the most part, defense did their job. Short drives for the Jets, get them off the field. A couple long ones. That's what you like to see, and that's excellent to see for the Cardinals, especially on the defensive side. So, 2 games where the Cardinals look good. We were pretty positive about them. 2 games where, quite frankly, they should have won. The Lions and the Panthers. The Panthers game, they just got dominated. I say they should have won just because looking at the stats, the teams, you just feel like the Cardinals were the better team going into that game. They just got dominated by the Panthers. So 2-2. They go in and they beat the Jets on the road in New York. 10 a.m. start. We talked about all that last week to take it to 3-2. If I was to tell you at the beginning of the year the Cardinals were going to be 3-2, you would have taken it. You would have been happy with it. For the most part, I think Cardinals fans are happy with the 3-2 start. They're just not happy who they lost to. I get it. I understand it. We don't go negative on this just to be negative and just to be controversial. I'll take the 3-2 with the teams that they played here, moving. Not barn beaters by any stretch of the imagination, but for a team at the beginning of the year, and their schedule's getting harder now as they go forward. So we'll take the positive 3-2 schedule record here going forward. Of course, we'd all love to be 5-0, right? I would love to be 5-0 every year if we could make that happen, please. So this week, Monday Night Football. Now, it's a little different because there's a game before the Cardinals game, so it's not going to have it's not the only game that night. It's not the only focus that night as they go into this game, but they are the only focus in the normal slot. The first game starts way early, 2 p.m. Phoenix time. Probably not going to have a ton of watchers like you normally would just because people are at work and things like that. Good news is they lost Chandler. Well, bad news is they lost Chandler Jones last week for the season. Good news is this week, Devin Kennard has been limited in practice this week. It sounds like he's going to play this week. Sounds like. Of course, Buda Baker came back last week. Made a huge difference in that secondary like we expect him to as the leader on this team. Chris Banjo has been practicing all week with that hamstring. Expecting him to play this week, of course, and then Jordan Hicks will be out there as well, since they've been participating in practice all week. So no huge names on the injury report for did not practice. Of course, J.R. Sweezy went out of the game last week with the elbow. I don't know what his status is. He's a depth player on there to help us out on the depth on the offensive line. But we're getting the defensive guys back that we struggled against the Panthers. Good to see coming up here for the Cardinals going into this Dallas game. Relatively healthy. Going to be interesting to see what they can do against this Dallas team with the, getting their defensive guys back, because this game's hard to handicap because with Dak Prescott as the quarterback, of course, he did get hurt last week. He's out for the season. His ankle did some weird folding thing that you hope never happens to anybody. And so Andy Dalton comes in, and he's going to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. Under Dak, the Cowboys were slinging the ball everywhere. Passes everywhere. They had the number one rated offense going into this game now because of what they did with Dak as their quarterback. So what do you expect from Andy Dalton this week? I have scoured the internet. I have looked at the Dallas papers. I have looked at Dallas sports media. I have asked them everything, read everything about it. It's variations everywhere. I think Andy Dalton fits the Mike McCarthy offense that he wants to run better than Dak does. But Dak's been putting up points everywhere, right? Andy Dalton is the runner Dak is. So that's the other side of it. So I expect the offense of the Cowboys to run the ball with Zeke a lot more than they have been. It's going to go back to an old school offense for the Cowboys, where Dak's going to get the ball, a lot more balanced offense here in this game. They're also going to throw it. They're going to test the Cardinals secondary. Absolutely. See what they can get out of it there. Just expect the running in and come in more. So that defensive line for the Cardinals needs to be ready for a run game that's going to come their way with Ezekiel Elliott coming at them. Number one ranked offense, but it's a little bit on the Cowboys, but it's a little bit misleading because obviously the offense is going to be the same with Dak out as Dak in there. Their defense, however, is just atrocious. A couple weeks ago, they were quitting on plays in a loss. They weren't running down the field at all. So the Cardinals' offense should have a great game this, especially with DeAndre Hopkins. If they can spread the ball around, Christian Kirk still has a good passing game. They get that balance going with the running game even. Kenyon Drake needs to step up, get in there, get the tough yardage up the middle, break some open tackles. Chase Edmonds does what he does when he gets in there. I would like to see Chase Edmonds get a few more carries than he has been getting. But what he has been getting with his minimal carries has been really good for the Cardinals offense. The Cowboys defense is ranked 29th in the league. They're giving up points left and right. But the Cowboys are scoring points left and right as well. So, again, little hard to predict this just because new quarterback in there. Dalton only played, couple minutes in the third and then the whole fourth quarter. And they weren't going to change their offense too much with him in there last week after the Dak injury. So we don't know what we're going to kind of get. It's kind of up in the air what we're getting from that offense. One thing I will say, I am expecting a high-scoring affair. Cardinals defense has a chore against them this week with Andy Dalton, partly because of the unknowns, but also partly because the running game of Zeke Elliott. This is the best running back they faced. Davis and Carolina diced them. The nice thing is it's only a running back. Andy Dalton isn't going to take the ball and run for 100 yards on you. So you don't have to worry about the quarterback as much. More to shut down Ezekiel Elliott. You got to worry more about the receivers on the Cowboys. So Patrick Peterson needs to have a big game. The safeties, Budda Baker, those guys need to step up and get some covered sacks. Some interceptions would be nice back there as well going into this game. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. And not hugely high-scoring. Maybe a 32-28 ball game. Cardinals are going to win this game. calling it now. Cardinals are going to go into this. This game isn't too big for Cliff Kingsbury. This game isn't too big for Kyler Murray. They're used to playing in these Texas environments. They've both been there for a while. It's a god-awful Cowboys defense. We're not sure what we're going to get on offense. If anything, the offense is going to take a step back from that number one spot, but we're going to see more Zeke, which could also put it right back up there and keep it in that number one spot as we go into this weekend on there. One quick thing, going back here on the let me load it back up here. So, DeAndre Hopkins has 5+ receptions in 23 consecutive games, which is the second longest streak in NFL history. I expect that to continue this week against the Cowboys. There's nothing in this game that says the Cowboys are going to be able to stop the Cardinals' offense. The intriguing thing about this is if they play like they did on offense, at least against the Jets, Cowboys aren't going to know what's going to hit them, right? Because you can have Kenyon Drake run the ball against you. You can have Chase Edmonds run the ball against you. Obviously, Kyler Murray can run the ball against you. So you have to worry about three-headed monster coming out of the backfield. You got to worry about DeAndre Hopkins catching, obviously, a lot of passes for a lot of yards. You got the Christian Kirk has stepped up. You got Larry across the middle again. Andy Isabella with those catches he got against the Jets is going to get the ball moving for the Cardinals this weekend. The Cardinals have scored 20+ points in 8 consecutive games dating back to 2019. Cardinals are putting up points right now. That's not the issue for the Cardinals on the offensive side. It's just, can they stop the Cowboys defense enough to get a lead in this game and go? And I believe they can. So, one thing that's also is Chase Edmonds had that 29-yard score in the first quarter. It was his 5th rush touchdown of 20+ yards since 2019. So the Cardinals are, getting the opportunity to where Chase Edmonds can break one of those long plays. The important thing is to stop Zeke Elliott from having the same reaction on his side and going down and scoring. One thing I looked at this week, we talked last week, I believe it was, about how Kyler Murray struggles in the short to medium range passes. He's one of the worst in the NFL on those. And we said we keep an eye on him. Look, I watched him. I mean, he was completing passes fine in the Jets game. That was the Jets, though. This weekend, even though the Cowboys offense is right down there with the Cowboys defense is right down there with the Cowboys and Jets offense are very similar, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know if this weekend's going to provide it either in terms of what to expect from if we get good things out of the Cardinals offense, if it's going to be good or not. But one thing I did look up this week, I was curious about it. How the games start for the Cardinals, right? And then also how they come out at halftime. Because I made that note at the third quarter in this game. And one reason I made the note was I wanted to go back and look at how the Cardinals opened up the first quarter, with their first drive, and then also their second half on there. See if there's any trends going. So let's go over it real quick. Week 1, obviously against the 49ers. They punted on their first drive, the first half. First drive of the second half, missed field goal. Against Washington, first half opening possession, touchdown. Second half, 3rd and out, and they punted the ball. Or 3 and out, and they punted the ball. Against the Lions, interception in the first half, opening possession. Second half opening possession, went down and scored points. Against the Panthers, first half, 3 and out, and a punt. Second half, a fumble and a turnover. As I said, Panthers game, that doesn't surprise me. That was just an abysmal performance by the Cardinals. Against the Jets, 3 and out and a punt in that first possession of the game. Second half, punt. We already talked about the third quarter where I felt like they sleptwalked through the beginning of that third quarter. Just a trend here. The Cardinals have amassed only 10 points and 10 opening possession opportunities. That's not good. I want to see more to happen it'd be nice to get points in your first possession of the first half and also the second half. Believe me, it would be really nice to get points on that. But at the same time, 3 and out and punt. 3-and-out punt, fumble, interception, 3-and-out punt. They did have a touchdown there, missed field goal. Go down and get points. Set the tone early against these Cowboys, especially in Texas Stadium. Look, the Cowboys are 2-3. They're not a juggernaut by any stretch. They just lost their starting quarterback. They're struggling on offense. They're struggling on defense. Their offense can put up points and are running the ball, but they're not doing enough to get the victories against the good teams. Set the tone early this week. Get out there in that first half. Drive down the field, even if it's a field goal. Get some points right off the bat. When you come out after halftime, come out with fire. Your first possession, go out and move the ball and get some points on there. Set your tone in this game as you go, Cardinals, on this. And let's see what happens as they go from there. Cardinals are, as of this morning, which is Friday morning, Cardinals are favored by a point over the Cowboys at home. Obviously, Dak has a lot to do with that. At home, that is pretty amazing that the Cardinals are favored by 1 over the Cowboys. With, like I said, we've gone over the question marks you have. This is a hard game to handicap because we're not quite sure what we're going to get here. So, thing I want to watch this week, like I said, is opening possession of both halves. Let's focus on that this week. While we're also watching, like we did last week, the time of possessions and these little short intermediate passes. I have a feeling the short intermediate passes are going to be open in this game all game long. They're going to want to cut down the long passes to D-Hop down the sideline and Christian Kirk. I think that opening in the middle of the field is going to be open for the Cardinals today. It's important to hit those passes when they are open and stop. Do not let Ezekiel Elliott run all over the place on you. Even if he picks up 100 yards in this game, make him work for it. No long drive, no long runs, no dominating runs, things like that. Cardinals will get this victory. As I said, I'm expecting a high-scoring affair. I mean, when the Dallas played the Giants earlier this year, was that 2 weeks ago, I think? Basically 34-34 in the fourth quarter. I'm expecting something in that time frame, in that scoring range, 32-28. 34-28, whatever you want in that time frame, and a Cardinals victory. Hopefully next week when we go into week 7 of this Cardinals Rewind, we will be talking about another Cardinals victory over the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Win or lose, we'll be here. We'll break it down. We'll look back on this game and, of course, look forward to the next game going into the next week. Everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Of course, you can reach out to me at SMAC500, SMAC500. At the Main Event Pod, of course. Definitely give me your predictions and your thoughts on this weekend's game against the Dallas Cowboys Monday night. We'll see you all next week.